Which players do you predict will break Jets team records this year, and which records will they break? So there's two that come to mind for me that line up to a lot of what we've talked about. I think Jets passing records are pretty light touch. Now, Namath,
please take them, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Namath's yards are pretty ridiculous considering the time and era. I look at the touchdown passes, one that Fitz has in a 17-game schedule. And even if the Jets, like, Rodgers doesn't have one of his, like, insane 4,600-yard season, like, can he break touchdown passes in a single season with Garrett Wilson and with checking it down to Breece Hall? If he starts 15, 16, 17 games, yeah, that's one I'd keep an eye on, and it's better for him to have it than Ryan friggin' Fitzpatrick to have it. And then Breece Hall, from like total rushing yards in a season to total offensive yards in a season. I asked this question on Twitter the other day, like, how many total yards are we looking at for Breece Hall? And you try to add on like the passing yard, the receiving yards he had in the final half of the season, and then project that out to a full season, because that's when he's starting to really get used there more. And now he'll have a better quarterback. So can he have 600, 700 yards receiving, 600 yards receiving to go with, 1,400 yards rushing, 1,300 yards rushing? Is that going to put him where he needs to be from a total offensive yards perspective and maybe a total touchdowns perspective? He's the guy who I think could do a lot of that damage. I believe the single rushing total one is still Curtis Martin from 2004. That would be the one he'd be going after. So Breece, year 3, healthy, great quarterback, good offensive line. He's the guy to watch across the board for like the stats that you'll look back on, like you do Brandon Marshall's stats from 2015. You're like, whoa, what happened that year? That's like a total outlier, because the game's also different now too. While Martin was involved in the passing game, it was never, it just probably won't be at the level that I think Breece could be, because I'm projecting off what we saw like in the Washington game last year and a couple other games where he had like the Houston game where he had like 80, 90 yards. And like, can he do that like 4 or 5 times a year and then consistently have like 25 or 30 yards to go with his rushing? That's where I think you could see something where he's like, wow, he's right there with Christian McCaffrey as the most like productive fantasy football player like in the entire league. And I'm sure this is something you and Barry will talk about a lot in the coming months too. That's how good he could be. Yeah,
Breece, I mean, just special talent with special production across every area you'd want of a running back. I think, the funny thing with Breece, and this will kind of carry me to the one record I would bet on being broken if I had to bet on one. So Breece last year, he caught 76 passes. Can you believe that's a top 20 reception season in Jets history?
Sadly, I can. I can.
It's tied for like 17th. It's unreal. It's unreal.
The Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian season.
The one I think that if I was a betting man that I think it's broken this year, Brandon Marshall, the most catches in a season from a Jet is 109. I think Garrett Wilson can top that this year. He had 95 last year, so he was really close playing with basically you and me at quarterback. And I mean, they didn't really go get another target monster. It's going to take Mike Williams a little time to get going, and I don't think he needs to be a target monster. I think you got to use him wisely. Corley will get involved. They'll throw to Breece. They'll throw to Conklin. But I think at the end of the day, Garrett Wilson could have 115 catches this year, and that would be a Jets record.
I like that call out. I mean, especially because he's been healthy and he plays like a lot. So, 115, 17 games, it's like 6-7 catches a week. And you got to figure I'll have some weeks in there where he has like 11, 12
for
catches.
Sure.
Because he will be far and away, I think, the main target monster, with Breece probably second in targets, just because I don't know when Williams is going to be right. Corley's a rookie. Conklin's probably third, but he's not going to take enough away from Garrett where that's not something that could be threatened. So, again, it remains incredibly impressive that Garrett, I talked about this on Sunday Coffee, that he has back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons considering the quarterback circumstances. It's not easy to have 1,000 yards for the Jets, and it's just not something they've had a lot of. And he has the ability, again, even if he has some weeks where it's like 8 catches for 81 yards, but he's just getting a lot of those quick releases and moving the chains to rack up a lot of receptions. What is I don't know if we could pull it up. What is the record for sacks in a total season? It's Gastineau's, right? With the one that Strahan broke. So that's going to be untouchable. That's like up around like 20. Yeah. So that's not, sorry, Hassan Reddick. Even if you sign your new contract, I can't give you that one. So that's not one. And they don't have like a ball, like interceptions in a season isn't even something like you really like kind of track. So yeah, I think we nailed it. I think those are the ones, the ones to keep an eye on overall with this team. And it's a good thing to be able to talk about that they actually have players capable